back, everybody, to the Purple Mountain Summit podcast presented by Purple Mountain Events in support of the Purple Mountain Throwdown. I am your host, Preston Shepard, and today, once again, we have a very special guest that I cannot wait to introduce to you. Now, this guest today is a local athlete, a known favorite. She is a CrossFit coach. She's a nutrition coach. She kind of has her hands in everything. I can't wait to dive more with her, find out more about her story, and hear about the cool things that she has going on in the community. Sara Potter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you. First of all, I'm going to call it out again. If you don't know Sara and you're coming to the Throwdown, you will know Sara. She's throwing down this year with us in the RX female division. But before we get into all that, Sara, I would love to kind of set like the stage. You know, I know you're a woman of many talents, of many skills, and you have a lot of really cool goals, which is why I think we've connected before in the past. But I would love to just like share a little bit more about you from the offset. So like what brought you towards tell me your backstory.
Yeah, my backstory. So I have a really interesting backstory that led me to where I am. I grew up with a single mom who didn't graduate high school, and so by the time she was 22, she had 3 kids, and navigating us, I went to 11 different elementary schools by 4th grade, and that was just because, you know, we had to move a lot and transition. And so, you know, I know what it felt like to buy food with actual food stamps. I remember in middle school having friends who were going to buy school clothes, and I had no idea that that existed, that you were getting school clothes. And so as I got into high school and I remained at the same high school, I found sports and coaches, and I was really drawn to coaches. I would say I still wasn't really sure of myself because of moving around so much. You just kind of blend in and follow along, and I enjoyed friend groups and socialization and was really drawn to softball and had softball coaches. And because of my softball coach was the reason why I played softball in college, was because he was initiating these conversations, and I was just living for day to day is how I was used to. And so fast forward to about when I was 22 and I was writing for a newspaper and doing grant writing, I was in a relationship with an individual who ended up becoming a very severe alcoholic. And I didn't really notice it the first, couple of years. And through college, you're drinking and going out, and you may overdrink. And so some of those things weren't exactly red flags, until we were now adults and living and, having careers and starting to build. And he would become very verbally abusive, and then it began to escalate into physical abuse whenever he would black out. And I would have to jump out of moving vehicles because he would be hitting me. And I, at this point in time, was very isolated from my family in rural Washington State where I grew up. Yeah. And at the same time in my family, my dad ended up becoming addicted to methamphetamine. And we lost our family business, this automotive repair shop that my grandpa built and my dad worked for. And so I just was really lost at that point in time. And I couldn't save my dad, who at that time there was nothing we could do at that point. And so then I was in this relationship with an individual that was facing addiction too. And when he was sober, he wouldn't remember anything that happened. Yeah. And so I remained. And I think when you're in a relationship and domestic abuse, it's really confusing because this is your partner. And even though you're crying and they're, forcing themselves on you, that's still your relationship. And so it's very confusing. And after a while, you start to convince yourself that you deserved it somehow, and even though that's not true, that isn't true, you didn't do anything that would cause you to deserve this. Yeah. It's still, you have to find a way to rationalize it, and you're embarrassed. And so as I was isolating myself from my family because of the complications there, I didn't tell anybody for a really long time because I was probably ashamed, and I became pregnant. And after he pushed me down the stairs, I left. And I had saved up money, and I was hiding money to be able to leave. And I ended up leaving and got my own apartment. And now I was just had a baby and was being stalked and still by this individual. And when you have a child with your abuser, it's really hard to just move or to hide out because you still have a child, and when they're sober they want to see their kid, and as a mom you're trying to navigate what's best for your child now, and so progressively he ended up getting a DUI, and so he couldn't stalk us anymore. And so now I'm working and grant writing and writing for a newspaper, and I have this amazing daughter, but I have this severe trauma that I'm not talking to anybody about, the depths of what I went through. So I began binge eating was the way that I could control something and deal with that. And so I go through this journey for a couple of years of just trying to be a mom and provide. And I found came back to running because I played sports and ran. And so I started running again because that's something you could do. And I think when I started running marathons, I was still hurting myself by running marathons, but that pain felt better than the pain of my abuse and the pain of binge eating. And I think in our culture, being anorexic is more acceptable. But being bulimic is there's a more stigma on it because people just don't talk about it as much. And it's just a little bit more embarrassing. And I think any food-based eating disorder is embarrassing. You hide out and you try to make sure that no one really realizes what's happening. And so it was through these couple of years that I was running marathons, and I was thinking I was healing through that marathons were healing me because I wasn't binge eating. But I was just running miles. Trading to punish myself through marathons. And it was in about 2008 that I found CrossFit. And it was before CrossFit. It was really CrossFit at a gym in the small town that I was living in. And it was more like functional fitness, I think it was called. And for the newspaper that I was writing at, one of the editors at the time, his wife was teaching group fitness. And it was this phenomenal gym that had a CrossFit space that was being built out, a yoga studio and a swimming pool, and this
kind of the dream of gyms,
100%.
Really.
And the individual that owned it at the time, each year you were there would pay for more certifications. And it was really at this time that I started to then teach group fitness, and I started doing CrossFit when, again, we had wood bumper plates, and it was still a kickboxing space. So it was before CrossFit was CrossFit. We were using tape to tape our hands for gymnastics, just athletic tape.
No grips yet. We're just getting the rock tape around there.
You didn't even know, 100%. And that's when I started teaching individuals. So I started teaching group fitness, and then I started helping the coaches at this CrossFit gym that we were starting to establish. And that is actually when I started to heal, because now I was getting the opportunity to coach others, and I was out of my own body. I was out of my own head and out of punishing myself. I was realizing that fitness is actually a tool for loving my body. And although it wasn't a perfect journey at that point, because we had the best time of CrossFit, because that's 2011, 2012, 2013, when you made it to regionals and you couldn't do ring muscle ups,
the golden age.
Yeah, the golden age of CrossFit. And it was also the start of WAG, which is amazing, working against gravity, phenomenal information, but that's when macros got big. And then I remember we had this dunk tank guy, and we were getting ready. I was on a team, and we had gone to regionals, and we were ready and geared up to go again. And we were in this dunk tank, and he's like, okay, if you're gonna be a competitive CrossFit athlete, you have to have a body fat of below 10. And we're all in on that. We're okay, absolutely, yeah, we have to have our abs all year round. And so we just cut our macros. We're 135 grams of carbs, 150, protein, and 60 grams of fat, and that's all I can eat, half a bar. And we're training 4 hours a day, getting ready. And so now it's just I'm trading one eating disorder for another
kind,
through this journey. And I hit hard. And so we went to regionals that year. I dropped 15 pounds. And we came back, and I was just super depressed again. I was this isn't sustainable, and this isn't healthy. And so I got my certified nutritionist certification and took a step back and was just how am I myself? I'm going to start binge eating again. This isn't healthy, obtainable. I was only doing this for aesthetics at this point. Absolutely some physical goals and training, but this is all just purely so that I can see my six pack. And it was just really unhealthy.
Yeah.
And so, I just had the opportunity then to take a step back and be healthy and look at what I was eating in a more balanced way and teaching that and communicating that and looking at our bodies and our health in a way of, you hear it a lot more often now, like what my body can do for me is how I eat instead of what my body looks like in the mirror, but I still feel terrible inside.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that, and I started on the process of where I am now through that and through that coaching and community and the empowerment of that community, because you didn't have to talk about how hard your day was. You just got to experience hard with other people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't perfect, and we would fail and we would get back up again, and you would fail and you would get back up again, and everyone kept showing up.
Yeah.
And that is like real life. Like, it's hard, and some days are really hard, but you get back up and you keep showing up, and now you have this whole community that is involved in that process. And so I was so fortunate to do that and personal train and coach and start to have my family where it is now with another daughter and a son. And so when I moved to Colorado Springs in 2017, I was coaching up at CrossFit 7070.
Okay. Yeah.
And had an opportunity to start embedding myself in the community and grant writing in the town of Kiowa and kind of feeling out where my steps were. And I started personal training at 24 Hour Fitness off of Southgate. And that's where I met David Brock, who is the husband of Sophie Brock.
Yeah.
And so David was my boss while I was training there. And one of his first questions was, okay, that's great. We know that you can personal train and you have these certifications and stuff, but what are you doing to better yourself? Like, what are you learning? What are you reading right now? What are you studying? What are your goals? And I just thought that was such a fantastic question, because he wasn't just looking at me as a personal trainer, but he was looking at me as a human being, like, so that I could grow and evolve while he was overseeing me. Yeah. And that just really gave me this leadership, like, learning tool, like, right there. It's like a core memory of when I'm in a position of leading teams or individuals. That's going to be one of the top things that I always remember, is how am I empowering you to continue to grow and be better. And so David introduced me to Sophie. And so Sophie and I actually we were just getting to know each other. We ended up doing CrossFit in 2018, and we won.
Nice.
And so I hadn't even been to CrossFit SoCo other than that. And so during COVID, I was able to do some remote coaching and yoga and teaching with 7070. But once COVID ended, that drive up to Monument back and forth it became way too much. And I knew I also wanted to continue making a bigger impact on the CrossFit community here in Colorado Springs, where I was actually living. And to me, SoCo was the epitome of great coaching. Like, I just had a lot of respect for Garrison as a coach from experiencing CrossFit and doing any drop-ins at SoCo, and every coach that I experienced just was really in it on warming you up and mobility and paying attention to you and just
basics,
coaching.
everything.
Yeah, like
the fundamentals.
100%.
Yeah.
I just really appreciated that. And so I remember going in and talking to Garrison and being like, hey, my name's Sarah. I've been coaching CrossFit for however long.
Yeah.
I would love the opportunity, if you're looking for a coach, to join your coaching staff. And I remember being really nervous. And I came in, and they have I wouldn't say rigorous, but you come in and he shadows you for, I think I had shadowed multiple classes to come in and to keep an eye on you and make sure. And so he was they are very specific. And I also appreciated that even after so many years of coaching. And so I got the opportunity to start coaching there and personal training and doing nutrition. But again, I just felt like I was only supporting 10% of my community, when there was this whole group of my community that I knew from experience was sick and isolated and kind of hiding out. And it wasn't going to be a doctor or a person that telling them they were going to need that warm handoff of relationship. So I got a job at Peak Vista Community Health Centers with their community health worker program. And so I got the opportunity to navigate a community health worker program inside one of the biggest community health clinics in our community. At that time, it was about 80,000 patients. And about 30,000 of them had some form of metabolic or food-based illness.
Yeah.
And so that's how we started. We started connecting with the providers, and the providers would refer individuals who were pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, or faced trauma, depression. We also have, in El Paso County, we have an epidemic of type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, and we also have high suicide rates. So the goal for the community health worker program was to connect with these individuals and then walk with them, bring them into the gym and exercise with them, and just create a safe space, because it has to be nutrition and exercise. A part of healing is actually feeling in our body and finding empowerment and strength in that at whatever level that is. So my team began to walk with individuals. SoCo let me personal train individuals, so I could do one-on-ones with them. I could join CrossFit class with them and get them comfortable. And it was just so powerful. And we were able to reverse type 2 diabetes for multiple individuals pretty quickly, just through this exercise and through communication, about just whole foods and just really basic, nutrition. And it wasn't just them, it was their families. And so we're changing now, your grandma who now reversed her diabetes, and now you guys know that she's going to continue to live a higher quality of life longer. And now she's changed her habits for her children and her grandchildren. And it's just so empowering. Now they're all walking together as a family every evening where they weren't before. And then individuals who were really depressed because they weren't moving at all are now coming into the CrossFit gym and saying hello to the community and part of the community. And so it was so amazing to do that. Unfortunately, some of the COVID funds started to run out. So we had to push pause on that program. And so I was then able to come into a city director of another nonprofit, again, that connected to resources and community. And so I got to embed myself even more into the nonprofit sector. And that's how I connected with Mary's Home. And Mary's Home is a nonprofit that works with mothers who have children who are escaping domestic abuse or abuse situations. And that was, full circle moment for me to get to come in, and I get to talk about nutrition and trauma with them. And it's about a 72% rate of women, particularly men as well, but women who have faced domestic abuse have eating disorders, and either binge eating, hoarding, or anorexia, because we can control. So it's really common to kind of not have a healthy relationship with food. And so I've been able to work with them in each of their sessions and then teach them yoga and how that breathing and empowerment and calming your mind.
Calming the mind down.
And so that's just been phenomenal. And so I've had about 5 years in this nonprofit sector and creating relationships with other nonprofits. And I think during that time, I've been trying to find a program that exercises and does nutrition. I really have. I think that I know that we did it at Peak Vista, and so I know it's possible. I know that then you can even connect individuals to the YMCA or other programs that are doing this. And so I think for the past year and a half, I've really been okay, there's got to be someone else doing this. There's, I think I was just not brave. I guess I wasn't being brave in that moment. I needed to learn more. I needed to get more experience. And it's not that I wasn't being brave, but I think that I just needed to be better prepared. And so I think in a way the universe was we're going to have you be a city director of this nonprofit so that you can get experience of what that's like, and so that you can actually see that there is a gap in these services and there is a need in your community. And now I'm going to call you to do that because you can do something about that. And so actually when I was doing the community health worker program, I reached out to CrossFit Medical Society, CrossFit Health, and sent all these emails and was hey, I think this is something that we could create for the country. 100%, that it's so powerful. And I think CrossFit itself seems so intimidating when really the majority of CrossFit gyms are general population. It's individuals working to be healthy. It's individuals who are coming around their work times. It's individuals who just want to have longevity with their grandkids and with their children. And that really is the majority of these boxes around the country. And that's where we can do better about connecting to our community and being more accessible. And I think that's also in some podcasts that you hear, and the CrossFit Medical Society is amazing. I just want to, but they talk about this. They talk about CrossFit being a way to reverse type 2 diabetes and metabolic disease. And that sounds so amazing. That's great. But how are we doing that? Are we more accessible? Are we connecting with the community health centers to make sure that individuals who have these diseases can get into CrossFit gyms and into those spaces? Are we able to pay the trainers and memberships and all of that? And so I connected with them to say this is what I was doing, and they were like, hey, you create it. We'll absolutely, support it.
Okay.
And so, but again, like I was like all amped, but I just wasn't ready. I hadn't written a lot of like specific grants for specific programs. I had helped, state and government entities a lot more. And so this past year, that's really what I've got a lot of experience doing and working with foundations and creating those relationships. And so I'm like, okay, I just need to figure out. So the past couple of months, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, how do I do it? How do I take the transition of this city director position, which is like a lot of responsibility, where I want to make sure they're transitioned really well. And then how do I help my community and really make sure that I can help them and like it's sustainable? And Ronnie Sullivan with Peace is Possible, he was kind of doing similar things, and we talked and done a podcast together before, because he helps people with eating disorders and recovery is his focus. And so I've just been really proud of him, because I know that I don't share my story very often, and I'm just so proud of him sharing his story and just being willing to like support, especially from a male perspective. You don't hear a lot. And so recently he posted that he is able to take Medicaid patients, and the universe was like, here you go, Sarah, like, Ronnie figured out how to take Medicaid patients. That's the population that you're looking to support, individuals who are going to need more connection to gym memberships and to personal training services. And so I sent a message to Ronnie, and I'm like, hey, you want to get coffee and like see, how we might align?
See how things can line up for this. Yeah.
See,
You're the guy I'm looking for.
Let's just have a chat. And he had like no idea like that I'm just like coming in with this, like, because I've been planning this for a really long time. Like I've been putting pieces together for a long time. I'm like already know who I need to connect with, like all of these things. And I just know it's such an amazing model. And I know that all the owners in the CrossFit community that I know are absolutely like going to be supportive or are supported that I've already talked to. And for me, I'm like, hey, this is a way that we can continue to grow your communities and grow your longevity and make sure that you guys are continually having members join, and that your coaches continually can get personal training clients, and we can grow. And so Ronnie and I sit down, and I just lay this all out, and he's like, oh, okay, and I'm like, I just want to partner with you. And then I've just seen him work so hard, and I'm so proud of him. And I'm like, I want to help you. I want to help Peace is Possible at the same time that we're doing this, because it really all blends together. It goes together. Like individuals with food-based illnesses definitely have some form of eating disorders. And so now we can use different language. Now we can help and connect with UC Health and Peak Vista and the nonprofits, and really get this whole network of support and referrals for individuals that have these food-based illnesses and that have Medicaid, and we can support them, and then we can also help support a business to grow. And so we're setting this all up, and Ronnie's like, okay, and so, so that's just what we're doing. And so then I have these conversations, I sit down with like Garrison at SoCo, and I'm like, so, hey, so I'm going to start exercising, this is my plan. And I've already been doing stuff like this. So they're like not shocked, they're like, okay, great. And I'm like, my goal is to eventually figure out how to like have a pay model for you in your space. But in the interim, I'm probably going to be exercising with these patients for free. Like we'll, bill Medicaid, we'll figure out how this system works, exactly how this is all going to go. But I'll, use my time to get individuals comfortable in the gym. And then the long-term goal is to get them comfortable in the gyms, get them, building relationships with the community members. Now everyone sees Frank and knows Frank, and now Frank is feeling seen. Like in a way that Frank was afraid to be seen, that it's okay okay that, you know, he might not be in perfect health right now and that he's struggling, and that's okay, but he keeps showing up. And that's how, like, that's the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it isn't perfect, and this probably isn't your best day, and you might not be in your best health or your best self, but that's okay. Just keep showing up.
I really want to tie that in too, because, like, first of all, if anyone listening can't tell, you know, I can just tell how passionate you are about this project and how passionate you are about helping others. And I think, you know, after hearing your backstory and what led to you being you in this situation, the thing that's impressive about it, and the thing that I don't think people give themselves credit for, is even though you're going through the issues you're going through and the struggles you're going through, and looking back at it in hindsight, you're like, why did it take so long for me to realize X, Y, and Z? Like, the thing is, you did realize X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And the thing I've noticed about your story is that every time you hit a roadblock, you progressively tried to find a way to, like, remaster whatever was holding you down. You know what I mean? So if it was a bad relationship, eventually you figured out a way to get out of that.
Yeah.
If it was being a single mom at the time and taking care of kids, obviously you figured out a way to get after that. When it came to food eating disorders, you started trading it for another disorder, and you traded it for another disorder. But the impressive thing about what you did was, I think you did recognize that, like, maybe this is a problem. I should educate myself on this so I can figure out how to help myself. And then you didn't stop there. You said, okay, now that I know how to help myself, I want to see how I can help other individuals. And then you got a general population where you're just helping people who are everyday gym goers, and you're keeping them healthy. And then you're like, I can take this a step further. I can interact with people who are like me, who have gone through the same things that I've gone through, and put myself in a situation where I can help them, because I wish I had that person when I was in that situation. And I think that's a really powerful thing. I'm really happy that you're pursuing that, and you can just feel the passion beneath it.
Yeah.
And you've already started making a lot of steps for it. Yeah. And that's so cool. I would love to know, you know, we explained how you're taking small steps with SoCo.
Yeah.
Like, what is your vision for the rest of the Springs, or really the rest of Colorado? We have such an amazing CrossFit community here who would love to get behind something like that. So what does that look like for you?
Oh, I'm coming for them. Yeah. I've already reached out to, you know, Allie and Smalls, and kind of touched base with them. Yeah, Mountain Shadows. And so, you know, they're on my list for sure. And then, you know, Nikki and Chase at CrossFit Colorado Springs. And then, you know, Bonnie and Clyde and CrossFit Tava and Hellkite. I mean, these are all individuals that, as I go through, you know, SoCo is just my home base. And so they're the first space that, you know, especially bringing individuals in and building that trust and building it out. I want to have this system set up before I approach this to other gyms in that way. I mean, they'll hear about it and I'll reach out to them, and as we grow, so that this is how we're doing it here. And this is how I'm reimbursing you. Like, my goal is to definitely start and just get this going and start exercising with patients so that I can start helping as many individuals as we can, and start to create, you know, our data and make sure we're having all of those processes all set.
The results, and like, from hosting a program like this, what you can do for other individuals through
Absolutely. Then we have a model, and then we can also ask for more funding and bigger partnerships to be like, hey, we are actually changing and impacting the health of our community, and we are reversing type 2 diabetes and pre-diabetes.
Which is what at its core, like, CrossFit was started to do.
100%.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. So it just fits in CrossFit. And so anyways, I'll continue to follow up with all the CrossFit gyms and build it out, because I'm going to need to connect individuals to where they live in their community, because transportation may be an issue. Yeah. And we have the CrossFit gyms all over to do that. And so, as I keep building this out, then I'm just going to keep partnering with each of the gyms and doing the same model that I'll create at SoCo at first, and then do that same thing as we branch out and grow. And so, and I just see that being an impact in Colorado Springs, and then a model we can do in Pueblo, and a model we can do in Denver, and we can do that all over. Like, it can be a national model that we are
nationwide,
like 100%, because type 2 diabetes is reversible. But the longer that we just cure the symptoms of, making sure people's blood sugar is regular, but we're not reversing it, the more long-term damage is being done to their systems, the more long-term depression that is happening to them. And so we want to reverse this as soon as possible. And by connecting with the health programs, the community health centers and UC Health and the nonprofits that are working with these individuals, the sooner we can reverse type 2 diabetes and obesity. And then we're able to get into, other trauma and counseling centers and working with individuals who are facing depression and isolation, and we can get them, one of the most powerful tools is exercise to heal.
One of the things too that you pointed out that I don't want people to skip over is it's not just that individual, right? Like you pointed out that like if you, especially like a key figure in the family, like if they're suffering from depression or type 2 diabetes or just don't have good habits, you being able to enable them with the habits to then pass it on to the rest of their family prevents so much potential trauma later on.
Absolutely.
So much potential disease later on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it just takes that first step of like getting them moving and getting them eating good food and, and understanding what kind of food and all that stuff that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's been like, I think you talked about it briefly, but what's been like the most rewarding part so far with the work that you have been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing the individuals show up and how it changes their life and changes their habits. Like it doesn't take very long for an individual to feel the effects of moving their body or getting out of their habits or routines or isolating themselves inside their home. Like they come in and even if they still are slightly depressed, there's like relief and joy in seeing you and in that relationship. And they're like, I left my home today, or I went on a walk on my own. And you see that already. And then reversing diabetes. Like we've had multiple individuals who got to reverse their diabetes and they're like, I'm not going to die. Like that's just, they thought this is it. And I'm just going to live with this disease till I die. Yeah. And so, I mean, the fact that they're living and that they feel empowerment in their body and all those symptoms that come along with that, and that they have more of a will to live and to enjoy life and not just go through the days, but they're actually looking forward to things and making plans and making goals. And that's incredibly powerful and it's just amazing. And they're doing that. Yeah. And that's everything. Because when you exercise with a person, they have to make an effort. They have to do some work, no matter if it's just taking steps or if it's picking up a barbell or if it's sitting up and sitting down and standing up and sitting down and standing up.
No matter what they're doing.
But in their brain, they're like, oh, I can do that. I didn't think I could do that. And now when they go home, oh, actually, I'm not going to eat that. I can eat this. And it changes the whole dynamic of how they think about everything else in their lives. And that right there that's everything. That's how, they grow. Yeah.
I think it's crazy. I've definitely never been diagnosed. I never think I've ever had a food disorder or anything like that. But just as like a regular athlete, I feel like at some point in time, I realized that I wasn't like the college me anymore, right?
Yes.
And then like food that I was eating in college versus food that I was eating now as a 30-year-old, like was having a very adverse effect on like my body and whatnot. And it moved past like a static thing and to the point where like I was pretty down on myself just in general.
Yes.
And I think there's such a powerful thing when you can fix somebody's relationship with food.
Yes.
Like even at the lighter level that I think like I was at versus like someone who's like legitimately is starving themselves for some form of body dysmorphia. Yeah. Like stress is stress is stress is stress, and your relationship with food is extremely important. I think it should be talked about more. So that's why I'm like super happy to hear how much of a focus you have on it,
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. And what with Ronnie and Pieces Possible, for me coming in and being able to partner with them and being able to also take athletes and other individuals who, again, eating disorders or eating issues doesn't have to be as extreme as I have type 2 diabetes or I'm obese. It's anything, because food is just directly correlated with our daily habits and how we feel. Yeah. And we all have those foods that we eat that make us feel bad. And we all have those times when we don't feel good in our bodies. Yeah. And that's what we're here to support. It's just those conversations. And it's something I've been doing no matter what. If I'm in a gym and an individual is talking about their goals and they need help with food, I will sit down with them for a half an hour and talk about food. But I love it. I just like, how can I support you? What are your goals? Absolutely. Because food it's science. Like it just is science. The food that we eat directly impacts our neurological, our physical, our emotional, everything.
Every part of your body.
It's everything. It's how we grow muscle. It's how we sleep. It's how we recover. It's how we deal with our family, our stressors, our spouses, our partners.
Even your thoughts.
Your thoughts, 100%, your emotions and how you feel about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself and your body's running the way it should, you're going to accomplish more things. You're going to be braver in your activities. You're going to be more confident in your self-talk. And there's the majority of people that really have terrible self-talk about their bodies. It's high, and it's really phenomenal, especially in sport, that it's not talked about more, to be like, hey, let's have more of these conversations. And I think that's growing, and people are putting that out there a lot more often. And so in this role that I get to step into now, I get to support, our diabetes patients, but I also get to support just our athletes and their goals. And I want to run a marathon, or, hey, I'm just having a lot of trouble with really balancing. And do I track? Do I not track? Is it macros? Is it this? And really just for me, my goal is for people is to feel good in their bodies. So whatever works best for you, let's just have those conversations. What are you eating that makes you feel bad? Okay, how can we change this or that? Instead of stop eating? I think when you're, a lot of times nutrition coaches, and what I've seen in the CrossFit spaces is nutrition coaches coach the way that they self-talk themselves. And so when I come in, and I've been able to support a couple different gyms when they need nutrition support, CrossFit 70/70, if they lose a person, I'll just help them and fill in to do nutrition for them. CrossFit Falcon View, if Jody needs support, then I'll support Jody and help her with her program and connect to her gym members and create that space. And there'll be sometimes where I'll fill in maybe with an athlete or an individual who is working with a coach, and they're eating, they're like healthy and maybe want to lose like 10 pounds, and they're way under eating, like macros are super low. And I'm like, the reason why you're staying on track and losing track is because you're under eating, and it's just really common, and it's not all the time. And there's some phenomenal coaches that have done just a phenomenal job with healthy balances. But sometimes there's nutrition coaches who maybe just, and it's nothing bad, but like just got their recent nutrition coaching certification, their precision nutrition, and they're just in it, and they're following
Greenhorns
these.
are just going down the template.
100%,
this is going for everybody. It's like, I only know this way, and this is how I'm going to do it. 90 calories here, 20 grams of protein after this.
100%. And there's nothing wrong with it. We all have to learn. But sometimes that puts people then that you're coaching and maybe in under like a calorie deficit that they're not meant to be in. Or we want to cut them too early, where this individual hasn't been consistent with any amount of food for years or decades and has been consistently low on protein, has like does binge eat in just a way of like, I overeat, I undereat, I overeat. So their hormones and their systems have no idea what balance is. And so a lot of times we first just need to find a baseline for those individuals where they're just eating the same amount and no deficit. And I just think deficits can be abused so easily. And so I think that some of that I just see a lot in the space. And so just my goal is to, if nutrition is the baseline of our pyramid in CrossFit, it's the baseline, I want to then support gyms to be able to do that in their own gym space. I think that we have a couple of coaches that do that remotely and do remote nutrition coaching, and they're phenomenal. And I think that's so great because we absolutely have to have that as well. And there's some gyms that do have some nutrition in their gyms, and that's amazing. And so how do we create an even better template to provide this information like on a consistent basis
to everybody?
To everybody, and making that like, hey, this is just our Colorado Springs nutrition guideline for all of our members. And we have these, and they're in our gym, and they're in for resources, and we can come and talk about mental health and mindful eating, and have that created as just a system that, that I would come in, or Ronnie and I, or whoever that we partner with.
It'd be so cool just to have like everyone understand that that's a resource, to them, and it's like available, because like you said, nutrition is such a touchy subject. Like a lot of times people are either being way too audacious about what they're so goal driven around like what they want the nutrition to do. Like you talked about it whenever you were getting ready for your second regionals, all of a sudden you guys were like 10% body fat, abs. That's the only goal that I have going on. That is my measurement of success. And that's such a fragile goal in comparison to like, how do I understand my relationship with food to make sure that I sustain the amount of life that I want to have, like the amount of fitness I want to maintain for the rest of my life, the amount of mobility, the amount of just
Playing with
everything.
your children.
Playing with your children.
Having
Yes.
quality of life. 100.
Walking upstairs.
Going to the park. Yeah. If you're under eating, you're not going to have energy to take your kids to the park and go hike with them.
Yeah, it's
feeling
feeling good to go do that with your kids.
100%. If you feel sick, you're not likely to go out and do that with them. And so, yeah, I think my goal is to continue in these partnerships with all of the gyms to provide these as a part of their gym for their members.
Yeah.
And then, find ways that we can get them reimbursed and create funds and create this in partnership with Pieces Possible to create that as a foundation, a nonprofit side where we can write fundraiser grants and we can write program grants. And I think I've talked to you about that a little bit before.
Yeah.
Partner with the high schools, and we partner with this high school and we bring this high school a month of lunches. So we provide this high school or snacks like around their sport.
Yeah.
So we're providing these foods that we're recommending for them for output and energy and recovery in school and well-being, or we get them all shoes or, shirts, and we get to throw these events where we really are embedding ourselves as a CrossFit community to make real impact in our community.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. It's so powerful.
that.
And that's what all of these gym owners want to do.
Yeah.
They all do it because they want to impact their community. And so to be able to all come together and impact even more of our community, I mean, what a phenomenal opportunity that gets to be for me to create.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If I'm listening to this podcast right now, and I now understand the vision and the goal and how just driven you are to accomplish this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to help. I want to support in some way. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell that listener? How can someone support your cause, or how can they get involved?
Yeah. So for right now, you can go to piecespossible.com. I believe that's what Ronnie's website is. And you can send Ronnie an email. There also is a link for connection there. And then you can go to my Instagram, Sara Michelle Potter, Sara Michelle Potter, no H in there, and send me a message. So we're just building this out. We're going to create referral and QR codes and have this all set up. And on the website with Pieces Possible, there will be links where you can connect with me, connect with Ronnie, set up one-on-ones, where you can also refer individuals that that have these food-based illnesses, and you can refer your friend, your parents, your grandma, your grandpa, whomever, and then we'll follow up to be like, hey, we're reaching out, can we go for a walk?
Okay.
And that's just how it'll start. Like, hey, I'm Sara, I'm with Pieces Possible or CrossFit SoCo. Like, we're just reaching out so we can connect with the community. Can I meet you, at the park nearest you? And so we can go on a walk and just talk about, how you're feeling, what's going on. Yeah. And that's how it'll start.
I love that.
So individuals who, are maybe at different levels will either start then maybe meeting at the gym spaces, but for the most part, I think the majority is just going to be start walking with them, get to know them, what's going on, what are your biggest barriers, and go from there.
I love that. I love that. Well, I can't wait to see the progress that you guys have with a program like this. I want to, I get excited anytime we ever talk about this. So once we cut this podcast, I want to talk to you more about it. But I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast, sharing your story, sharing your journey. It's a powerful one, Sara. And I think it's very obvious, and I've said it 19 times, why you're as passionate as you are about this. And that's what I think makes it beautiful. And I think that what you guys are trying to do with Pieces Possible and the overall restructure of our mindset on nutrition, making it more accessible to everybody, making it more relevant to everyone, so you can have a bigger picture and understand how the environment's going on is a beautiful thing. Yeah. Want to help and support it in any way. Thank you for being on the podcast. And if you don't know Sara, you will soon. If you're jumping on the throwdown, you're competing. She is throwing down. She probably doesn't want to talk about it right then, but I feel like she wants to talk about it maybe in between. I don't know. Hit her up. It's going to be beautiful. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today, and I can't wait to see you at the throwdown.
Thank you. I'm excited. I will be a 44-year-old just doing the best that I can out there.
Just throwing
with
down.
The youngins. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Awesome.